Donald Trump tried to claim credit for Joe Biden's cap on insulin prices after pressuring big oil CEOs to give him $1 billion in exchange for tax cuts and floating what has been called one of the worst economic policy ideas in history. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. For decades, the GOP has been seen by many as the country club party, the party of bosses and rich people. Before Trump, the most recent Republican presidents were an oil tycoon, that oil tycoon's son, and then in 2012, they nominated a private equity CEO who caught flack for his connection to a dancing horse named Rafalka.
Today was the first day of Olympic competition for Ann Romney's horse. While you may not have seen it in action in the arena, you might soon be seeing a lot more of this horse on your television.
The Romneys' involvement is putting the spotlight on dressage at this summer's games. But horse ballet has been part of the Olympics for 100 years.
A great dressage horse easily costs six figures. So the money, the obscure nature of the sport, and the attire have made Mitt Romney's connection to it a natural for comedy.
This is what we know about today's round of competition. Ann Romney's Rafalka competed in this and wound up 13th. The Brits took the top positions.
Yes, the Romneys had a dancing horse named Rafalka, and it lost at the Olympics to the Brits because, of course, it did. Look at the official uniform of this sport. No sport has ever been more British. When you win the gold medal, they tell you the true identity of Lady Whistledown. You think you're gonna beat the British at horse ballet? That's like trying to beat the Italians in a hand gesture competition, which, by the way, should absolutely be an Olympic sport. And now Team USA will send Uncle Tony onto the mat. Tony is a pizzeria owner and part-time Uber driver, and he is quite simply built for this. He begins with his trademark chin flick, moving seamlessly into a double chef's kiss, and now here it comes, the arm bend. Can he land the fist? Yes, he's done it! He's told the judges, up yours, and they in turn have told him, head to the podium, Uncle Tony. So the Romneys had a dancing horse named Rafalka. Remember when we thought that was the most ridiculous thing in politics? If you heard the name Rafalka in the news now, you'd immediately assume it was Trump's new lawyer. And then it would turn out it was the same Rafalka. I'd be insulted, but he's a hell of a litigator. Also, where do I get those teeth? So that's the image the GOP had for a long time. Then Donald Trump, another rich guy, inherited a fortune and a famous name, came along, and they tried to rebrand. They started claiming that actually Republicans were the party of the working class.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer.
We are a pro-America populist party rooted in conservative principle with Donald Trump as our leader.
We're in favor of an America First economic policy, an America First foreign policy, and that means doing what's good for the American worker.
The Republican Party is the party of steel workers and construction workers and pipeline workers and taxi cab drivers and cops and firefighters and waiters and waitresses and the men and women with calluses on their hands who are working for this country.
When he screams, he sounds like a vuvuzela in a blender. Whenever Ted Cruz raises his voice, it changes the migration patterns of geese. You guys hear that honking? One of ours has trouble. It's Cruz. My bad. That's how bad they are at rebranding. The only blue-collar jobs they can think of are the ones that come in Lego sets. The Republican Party is the party of construction workers, taxi drivers, firefighters, police officers, Jedi, ninjas, and Harry Potters. Obviously, it was all BS. It was all BS. Trump shoveled $2 trillion into the pockets of the richest Americans through his signature tax cut. In 2020, the last year of his presidency, nearly 8 million people fell into poverty while billionaires increased their wealth by more than a quarter. And if you're a Trump fan who's tempted to say, well, that was during the pandemic, yeah, that's the whole point of electing a president, to deal with a crisis. He doesn't get a mulligan for that. If your plane hits some turbulence, you don't want the pilot to get up and say, hey, I didn't put the clouds there. The clouds aren't on me. Of course, inequality is systemic and predates Trump, and some so-called moderates have helped make it worse, like Joe Manchin, who recently left the Democratic Party. Manchin fought the renewal of an expanded child tax credit that lifted millions out of poverty. In 2021, he reportedly said that he thought parents would waste monthly child tax credit payments on drugs, which is such a gross and insulting thing to say. Who do you think is more likely to be on drugs? Parents trying to support their kids, or the guy who looks like he raided a pharmacy and took one of everything? You know, the guy whose White House doctor was handing out pills like he was working the code check at Studio 54. Hey, go ask for Dr. Ronnie. He'll give you what they gave to Rafalka to make him dance. I can't believe I have to tell you this, but giving parents money to feed children is both good and politically popular, same as expanded unemployment or universal health care, or cracking down on big pharma for price gouging. In fact, that one is so popular that when Bernie Sanders recently announced a hearing to investigate the price of diabetes drugs, even Fox Business said they agreed.
Sanders says that Novo Nordisk charges Americans $9.69 a month, that's dollars, for Ozempic compared to $155 in Canada, $59 in Germany. They also charge Americans over $1,300 a month for Wegovy, while the same exact drug can be purchased for $140 in Germany, $92 in the UK.
All the innovation comes from the United States, and a lot of the cost disparities are here. 85% of Americans are paid for insurance or third party. Some of these other countries, it's not as significant. Canada, I think it's about 60%. So there are issues around that. But at the end of the day, you can't defend that disparity. Bernie Sanders, I'm going to say this will be maybe the first time. Bernie Sanders may be right. If people could buy their drugs in Canada, those people that see that price disparity, perhaps that will levelize the playing field. So on this one, I'm saying go Bernie. I'm feeling the burn on this one.
Okay, you're feeling the burn. Oh, boy.
Somewhere in Australia, Rupert Murdoch is angrily snapping a didgeridoo in half. You think you're feeling the burn now? Wait till I throw you on the barbie. It's getting so good. My Rupert Murdoch is getting so good. That's Fox Business rooting for Bernie Sanders. It would be super funny if this encouraged Bernie to start talking about petty rich people concerns just to get more positive coverage from Fox Business. He should do it just to troll them. The top 1% of Hamptons patios are getting 99% of the Italian marble. We need to redistribute the marble equally to all the pool decks on the South Shore. Now, Trump knows capping drug prices is wildly popular, which is why he's trying to claim credit for it. In a recent post on Truth Social, he said low insulin pricing was gotten for millions of Americans by me and the Trump administration, not by crooked Joe Biden. He had nothing to do with it. Well, thank you for gotten that for us. First of all, that's obviously not true. Biden capped prices for all insulin products for all seniors with diabetes at $35. He's also called on Congress to expand the cap to everyone, which Trump has not done. Second, I'm almost certain that if you asked him to explain it, Trump would have no idea what insulin is or what it does. Insulin, we all know, wonderful insulin. The beautiful insulin, it's the stuff that turned Wade Wilson into Deadpool, and they pumped him full of the insulin, and he got all those superhuman powers and the funny catchphrases they gave him. So the GOP rebrand is an act. If you strip away Trump's bluster and cosplay, he is, at the end of the day, a country club billionaire like all the others, and that's who he's catering to with his latest and perhaps most insane economic proposal.
Former President Donald Trump making headlines today after meeting with U.S. business leaders and Republican lawmakers.
He told Republican lawmakers behind closed doors he wants to eliminate the income tax and replace it entirely with tariffs, effectively taking us back to the 19th century.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia actually told me that Trump suggested perhaps no income tax.
Replacing the income tax with revenue, with tariff, would be the worst macroeconomic policy proposal in U.S. history.
This idea makes as much sense as ripping up the entire interstate highway system and replacing it with canals.
Don't give him ideas. We're looking very strongly at ripping up the New Jersey Turnpike and replacing it with a log flume. Which, yes, sounds fun until you realize that even a log flume in New Jersey would be bumper to bumper. Hey, get out of the way! Gold medalist coming through! Yeah, all right, I'll do it. All right. That's right, Donald Trump floated the idea of replacing all federal income taxes, which are paid mostly by wealthier Americans, with tariffs on goods coming into the country, which would cause massive price hikes for regular consumers. By one estimate, An average tariff rate of nearly 85% on all imports would be required to replace income tax revenue with tariffs. So the stuff you buy at a grocery store would have to go up in price by at least 85% so that the richest Americans could get another tax cut. Now, I'm not naive. I know the same Fox News anchors who rail against inflation under Biden will quickly pivot to saying yogurt tastes better when it's $21. But 85% more is worse. I got to be honest. Not only am I starting to think Donald Trump is not a populist, I'm starting to think he may not understand business. I mean, he knocked it out of the park with Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump water, Trump Airlines, and Trump cologne. But at some point, the winning streak's got to end. Side note, how bad do you think Trump Airlines was? I'm guessing when those doors blew off the planes, they just left them off. They probably started letting people off mid-flight like a city bus. Okay, we're over 59th and Lexington. If this is your stop, grab a chute. You can transfer here for the crosstown flume. But of course, Trump is not actually thinking through the consequences his insane ideas will have on ordinary Americans. He's just trying to please the corporate bosses he cares about most. For example, in April, he proposed a secret backroom deal with oil executives that would involve them giving him $1 billion.
A stunning new report by the Washington Post details a meeting at Mar-a-Lago last month between Donald Trump and about 24 top oil executives. Donald Trump reportedly shocked some people in the room, saying, "You all are wealthy enough that you should raise $1 billion to return me to the White House." Trump reportedly claimed $1 billion would be a deal because of how much he'd limit taxes and regulation.
The former president had a pitch for them. If they raise $1 billion for his campaign to return to the White House, he would enact policies that would benefit their industry.
You know who must be so pissed about this? Mitt Romney. Dude's got to be like, he promised a backroom $1 billion quid pro quo and you people don't care. Meanwhile, I had to eat for months because I have a horse that can twerk. Trump's populism is an act. His first term proved that, and now he's promising a second-term agenda that's somehow even more skewed to the richest Americans. In order to claim this guy is a pro-worker populist, Republicans would have to dance like they're doing
horse ballet.
This has been a closer look.